Next member, it might be helpful if members of the House acquainted themselves with the rules of debate on a second reading found in Speaker's Ruling 1055 through to 1066. It may exclude members talking about names of cars. Mr. Sam Lotu-Liga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just a short call to talk to the Motor Vehicles Sales Amendment Bill. But before I refer to the bill, if I could just diverge slightly, I understand there is a new Prime Minister-elect in Australia, and I think it's a good time to acknowledge Julia Gillard, who will become Prime Minister of Australia, and wish her well, and thank Prime Minister Rudd for all his efforts in the last 2.5 years in what is governing what is our closest ally in Australia. Mr. Speaker, this bill promotes and protects consumers' interests, and it also creates an environment of confidence around consumers choosing and purchasing vehicles. And I just want to refer to the prior speaker who said that this bill is under urgency and it's going to be passed today. No, it won't be passed today. The second reading will be read today, but the bill, strictly speaking, is not going to be passed under urgency. So this bill is actually in line with the national government's efforts to reform regulations, to cut red tape and to reduce compliance costs, because compliance costs, it's not just about form filling for the sake of form filling. It's not about reporting for the sake of reporting. It's not about paying administration fees or costs for the sake of paying these fees and costs and creating more bureaucracies. This government, as one of its 6 policy drivers to boost long-term economic growth, is about creating jobs, lifting incomes, raising living standards and cutting regulation and red tape. So this bill fits within our long-term strategic plan for this country. Mr. Speaker, I want to just talk about a few parts of the bill that the previous speaker did not refer to. In fact, I want to address the bill, which I think the previous speaker didn't address. But it is about amending the process for traders renewing their annual registration and reducing compliance costs, as we've already stated, with making annual statutory declarations as part of a registration renewal. And I think that's critical. It's about closing the loopholes around preventing automatic banning of tradies whose registration has lapsed. Sir, it's also about removing requirements for private sellers. That's not sellers in the marketplace, but private sellers at car markets who want to display consumer information notices. Mr. Speaker, it also increases the financial limit at which cases may be heard by the Motor Vehicles Disputes Tribunal from 50 to 100,000. I think that's in line with not just inflation, but in line with the pricing of motor vehicles as time goes on. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it also allows the tribunal to award costs for non-attendance of either party to the dispute and allow the decisions to be published. And I think this is a critical part of the bill in that it provides incentives for justice to prevail, and also it provides for the accountability and the transparency of those decisions so that the public may see how such decisions are made and how they're disclosed. Mr. Speaker, it's a bill which we heard in Select Committee, and admittedly the prior speaker did refer to it being over a year since our first reading, but we did hear submissions. We did work through the bill in what I thought was a collaborative way, as we do in the Commerce Select Committee. We certainly do. And it is a bill that is to be commended for its overall purpose. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
David.